Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just wait for a couple more minutes whilst the others are joining us. Hi there, welcome. Yeah, anyone who's just joined, like I said before, you're welcome to use the chat option on Zoom. So if there are any questions that you wanted to know about, or if there's any areas of Loughborough University or higher education that you're particularly interested in, then please don't be shy. Hi there, good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope everyone's keeping nice and warm, because it is quite chilly. We'll wait 1 or 2 minutes more, and then we'll begin. All right. Miss, would you like to say anything before I begin, or do you want me to just get on with the presentation?
Thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. This is Anna. We're very lucky to have Anna. She's actually a former Canon student, but she also works with the University of Loughborough, and she's going to be talking to you this evening about kind of applying to university, student finance, and all that entails. So I'll hand you over to Anna now. I will share the slides, if that's okay, Anna, with you tomorrow once they get sent over to me. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, lovely. Well, thank you all very much for joining on a Monday night. My name is Anna. I'm a senior outreach officer at Loughborough University. And like Ms. Reffords kindly mentioned, I was also a student at Canons. So I was a student a very long time ago, quite a long time ago. Whilst I may look quite youthful, I promise you I'm much closer to my 30s than I am to my 20s. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about UCAS applications, what it sort of entails, and a little bit about student finance. But if there is, like I said, anything that you in particular want to know, then you're welcome to, you know, at the end of the session to unmute yourself or use the chat option to write your questions. It can be quite overwhelming, the whole sort of process. So like I said, I'm very open to having that sort of Q&A question and answer at the end. So bear with me 2 seconds whilst I share my screen. Miss, can I just confirm that this is okay?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Excellent. Perfect. So, like I said, what is involved with applying to university? There is quite a lot to kind of go through. You're welcome to take photos of the slides. You're welcome to, you know, take notes. There will be quite a few bits that I cover. So, the first thing, like I said, so I'm an old Canon student. I remember studying at A-level, and I did my GCSEs in Canons as well. And I was also a student at Loughborough University. So hopefully your son or daughter might think about the same sort of journey or similar sort of journey. Just in terms of what we're doing today, we're going to go through firstly the UCAS cycle, so you'll understand the sort of cycle that your son or daughter will take to get from, you know, now up until when they go to university. I'll talk about UCAS applications. I'll talk about student finance as well. We'll talk about understanding and replying to different offers. So when your son or daughter applies to university, they will then get option to respond to the universities that they wish to go to. I'll give you some hints and tips on preparing for results day and preparing for university, and then hopefully some overall sort of things that we recommend your young person does sort of between now and going to university. So to start with, I just wanted to show you the UCAS cycle, because it's so much easier to see things visually when you can kind of see the different stages that are involved with going to university. So the UCAS cycle starts in year 12. So from January to September of year 12, it's very important for the students to sort of research courses, research universities, attend open days, and think about what they want to do going forward. Now, we do get a lot of students, and I do work with a lot of students in London, which is my main area, who say that they don't want to go to university, or they are not interested in going to university. They want nothing with it. There are some students who are unsure, not sure, your kids better than anyone. However, the one thing that we always say is that sometimes it's better to do all the prep work and to make sure that the student does everything as if they were going to university, because it's much easier for them to pull out of the application than it is for them to apply late. Okay, whatever future career they go into, they're gonna and if it relates to a subject, they're gonna have to think about what they want to do and why. And I think it's really important for them to take that time to think about, if they went to uni, what would they study, where would they go, and also think about more than just studying. Universities nowadays are so much more than just undergraduate courses. They offer employability options, they offer opportunities for them to build skills that are really valuable. So that's between January and September of year 12. Then from September, so when they hit year 13, the UCAS application actually opens. We don't recommend students applying when the UCAS applications open, because there is no sort of benefit for them to be like the first one to send their application in. We'd rather they spend the time and effort to make sure that they polish the personal statements and the sort of application before sending it. However, those of you that have sons or daughters who are thinking about maybe going to Oxford, Cambridge, or to study subjects like medicine, vet science, or dentistry, their deadline is actually a little bit sooner than the rest of the students. So they need to submit their UCAS application by the 15th of October. So this is why it's so important that if they are thinking about those subjects or those universities, they have everything prepped and ready beforehand. So when it gets to sort of September, October, they're ready to send it off and get it done. However, for majority of students, so for example, for me, when I was thinking about university, wanted to study geography, my deadline was in January. Okay, so before a few years ago, UCAS used to give us a strict deadline, which made it very easy for us to tell students. But now it will be towards the end of January that the UCAS deadline will take place. The school and college should be able to tell you when exactly the UCAS deadline will take place. And basically, the really important thing about this one is that this is the last point at which universities will give student equal consideration. So what that means is that this is the last point that they will consider their application in comparison to other students who may have sent it at a different point. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, there is no real benefit to send applications, especially, I mean, for Loughborough anyway, as a first student. We will look at all applications equally. The next thing in February, so once they send off their UCAS applications, is their student finance support will open. So again, that is also a very tricky deadline or application date that it changes every year, but it will take place between February and March. Again, the school will notify the student when that can take place. Now, the important thing about student finance is that every single student has to apply for student finance. Whether you decide that you want to fund your child's studies, they still have to let Student Finance England know that they wish to go to university and they do not want to take loans out. So every student has to do it. The important thing again is that they do not need a confirmed place at a university to apply for student finance. So some students think that they have to wait until the universities get back to them in order to confirm whether they, they're going to university or not. But actually that's not the case. All you need to know, you can always update the information, but they need to put the application in. Then from around May time is when most offers from universities would have been made. So it's really important that when your son or daughter submits their application in whether October or January, that they don't panic if they don't hear within a week or two. It can be quite an overwhelming time for them because, their friends might be getting their offers back and they might still be waiting for theirs. So, just reassure them that, for example, Loughborough University does not have an automated system that checks all the UCAS applications. We don't have a system that reads personal statements. We don't have a database that classifies students or anything like that. We do it all manually, okay? Now, Loughborough University gets many thousand applications, so it does take us quite a long time to review the applications, to review the personal statement and make sure that we make the right decision for the student. Sometimes we have to review applications and personal statements twice, maybe sometimes 3 times. Sometimes we actually say to the student that we think they may be suitable on a different course, so a course subject change. So it all takes time. So please just reassure the student that most universities will be working on their offers, but it might not happen overnight. Then in June, the students will confirm their firm and insurance choices. So what that means is that they get to pick 5. So they can pick the same course across 5 different institutions, or they can pick the same course. Or they can pick 5 different courses at the same institution as well. So whatever they want, they've got 5 choices. But by June, they need to pick their top 2. So that's called the firm and insurance. And I will talk about that in my presentation as well. Then August is A-level results day. So that's when students will find out whether they have met the conditions of, the offers that the universities have set for them. And then September is start of university. So at Loughborough, our sort of move-in days for students is normally towards the end of September, but some universities have it much sooner in September. So it varies from institution to institution. Now, I remember my move-in day. We're very lucky where Cannons is because we're relatively well connected to the M1. So Junction 4 from London all the way to Junction 23, exactly 2-hour drive it takes to Loughborough. So for me, it was absolutely ideal traveling to Loughborough from home to move in, and then I lived obviously in Loughborough in my first year on campus anyway, and I still do obviously live at Loughborough. So a couple of key points in terms of applying for university. So those of you that may be aware, students will apply online on a system called UCAS. Now UCAS is also sort of a website that has a list of all of the courses and universities that are available to study in the UK. So if your son or daughter is thinking about studying, I don't know, psychology, they can type in psychology in UCAS and it will pull up every single university, every single course, and entry requirements, information about the course and stuff like that, to give them an idea of what's out there. Now, what this can also help them do is find some of the courses that they may have never even heard of before. So when I do different workshops with students, they never believe me, but there are circus studies you can do at universities. There are Egyptian history courses, really specific and niche topics that students may be interested in. So please do encourage them to go on UCAS and look at that as well. But when it comes to applying, they go to ucas.com/apply. They will register with their username, password. They will also get a really special number called the UCAS ID. That UCAS ID is incredibly important because they will need to use it every single time that they log into UCAS to check the progress of their application. But also they will need to give that to universities to sort of discuss their applications if there is a need to do that. The school will also receive a buzzword and will give that buzzword to the student so that that application and the institution can connect, so that the information can be passed on quite efficiently. And also something that you might not know about is that students, teachers will also write references about the student to go with the UCAS application. So that's why it all needs to sort of link together. The really important thing is that the application does take time to complete. So it's not something that the student can do overnight, particularly the element of student finance, of personal statement that they have to write. And they can apply for up to 5 courses. Now, there is a small fee associated with the admin side of applying to universities. So this is separate from, the student finance. This is just the admin fee that they pay. If they're applying for 2 to 5 courses for 2023 entry, it will be £27. Okay. If they're applying for 1 course for entry in 2023, then that'll be £22.50. Now, a little bit about student finance. So we have a whole presentation about student finance. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is quite brief in its essence. But the thing I want to reassure you is that student finance is not as scary as it may seem, particularly nowadays when I know there's a lot of conversations about, living costs and things like that. It's quite basic in essence. So the main thing that you need to know is that there are two sort of costs associated with studying at university. The first is the tuition fees. So a tuition fees is related to the degree that the student is hoping to study, so the academic side of it. And then the second is the living costs. Okay, so that's the second cost associated with the university. Now, there are 2 loans that students can take in order to cover those. So you've got the tuition fee loan that covers the degree side of it, and you've got maintenance loan that covers the living costs. Okay, so the idea is that the student doesn't need a suitcase worth of money to go into university, that they can apply for these loans, and that can help them with studying. Now, every single student is eligible for the tuition fee loan, every single one. And every single one is also eligible for a maintenance loan. However, all students will be eligible for the basic rate of maintenance loan, and the rest, so probably the majority of the maintenance loan, is calculated based on household income. Okay, so to get full maintenance loan allowance, your son or daughter will have to state what their household income is. Okay. Now, when they submit their application to student finance, they will create their account, and then you will have to make your account to give household income. It's not going to be complicated. It's not going to be hard, but you will have to provide your national insurance number, and you may have to provide your P60 and proof of income. Okay. And then once you submit that, once the student submits theirs, it all goes to Student Finance England, and they will be able to sort of work out how much maintenance loan your son or daughter will get. Now, before you sort of do that, I would also recommend that you go on a website called Student Finance Calculator. Student Finance Calculator is a government website where it helps the student to establish how much maintenance loan they could get. So you can put in information like, I am a student hoping to study in 2023. I'm hoping to study out of London, not living with parents. My household income is this. I do not have any children that are dependent or anyone dependent on me, etc., etc. So you answer a couple of questions, and based on that, it estimates how much maintenance loan the student will get. So how much, the money for the living side of university they will be eligible for. This is a really useful thing to do because it helps the students establish, how much financially, how well they will be financially. Some students think that sometimes staying at home will save them money, but I would encourage you to have a play around on Student Finance Calculator to see if that would be the case. However, there is also one more thing that I wanted to mention. There are, depending on sort of circumstances of a student, bursaries and scholarships that I highly encourage the students to have a look at, because they are essentially free pots of money. So scholarships and bursaries do not need to be repaid. Okay, so in terms of bursary, so a bursary might be a top up on things like household income or personal circumstances. It may take form of a discounted tuition fee, or maybe money for accommodation or cash, there's different ways. And then the scholarship may be linked to, for example, an academic or sporting ability, or a specialist ability, and it can be subject specific as well. Okay, so like I said, those two things the student will never have to pay back, and every university has a different bursary and different scholarship scheme. So if once your son or daughter establishes where they want to go, it's worthwhile having a look on the university's website to see what they offer. So that can really help them with getting a little bit of boost of money as well. When you sign up for student finance as well, you will have to look out for emails, with updates and stuff. Sometimes they may need additional information in relation to the finance side of it, but please don't be afraid of it. And you will have to provide income for previous tax year. There are lots of information on the student finance website as well, which if you're still unsure, you're welcome to look at. The important thing about student finance as well is that it's not paid back straight away, okay? The student pays back once they finish university, once they start earning over £27,000, £295 per year. 27,000, okay? So if your son or daughter finishes university and decides that they're not going to work for a year, or they're going to go traveling, they don't have to pay the student loan straight away. They only pay back once they meet that threshold. After 30 years, if they don't pay back their student loan, it gets completely wiped off. Okay, so they have 30 years to pay off, but if they don't, it just gets wiped. Okay, so don't worry about having to have savings or anything like that to pay student loan, because it does get wiped. Okay, if for example your son or daughter starts working and they earn £30,000, they will pay a very small percentage over the threshold that goes towards student loans. If they then, in the second or third year of working, decide that they're going to change jobs and they're going to start a business and obviously not earn £27,000, then they stop paying student loans. Okay, so it fluctuates in terms of the financial situation of a student. So please don't worry about student finance. It's like I said, it's not scary. And just to let you know as well, student finance does not have an impact on credit score or the ability to borrow money. To give you an example, and I probably shouldn't share it because it does sound scary, but I have a student finance loan. My debt is about £47,000, but I sleep well at night. I have a car, I have a mortgage, and it doesn't sort of impact my everyday enjoyment of life or going on holiday or anything like that. I only have about, I think, between up to £30 a month that goes out of my bank account towards my student finance. So it's not that bad at all. But if anyone does have any questions about student finance, you're welcome to put them in the chat box. Okay, so now if you go back, so you can see February, March is when student finance will open. The next step is when the universities will start responding to the student when they've sent off their application. So once the students sent off their application, the universities will review and respond accordingly. Like I said, there is no system, there is no database, there is no sort of automated way of doing that. So we do go through it manually. The student can track the progress of their application on UCAS Track, which is why that UCAS ID number is very important. In some cases, students will have to provide relevant work experience, or they will have to go to an interview or an audition, or they will have to provide a portfolio or an essay or a piece of work required. Okay, to give you an example, I applied to study geography at 5 different universities, Loughborough being one of them, and only 1 out of my 5 asked me to come in for an interview. Okay, so it can vary depending on university. They may read the personal statement and think, this student sounds nice, but we want to meet them and get, be sure. In that case, they might come in for an interview. Okay. Otherwise, the universities will respond with these 4 options. So the first one is conditional offer. So the conditional offer means that the student needs to meet the entry requirements set by the university in order to have their place confirmed. So if the university responds to a student's application and says, thank you very much for applying to study psychology at Loughborough, we would like to offer you a conditional offer, providing you meet the AAB entry requirements in order to study with us. So the student has to meet AAB in order to study with that university. The second option is unconditional. So that means that either the students already met the entry requirements, or regardless of what grades they get, the university will still want them to study at that institution. So sometimes students will do their A-levels and then they will have a gap year, or they will have a year out, or whatever they decide to do, and then they will apply to university. So those universities know that this student already has their grades confirmed, they've got the results, so they don't need to sort of wait for results day, so they can give them an unconditional. Just so you know, the A-level grades and BTEC grades are still looked at even when a student finishes university. So some students will get excited that they have an unconditional offer, and means that they don't need to work hard, but actually those A-level grades are still very important even when they are at university, when they maybe apply for a placement year, or when they graduate. So it's really important that they still work quite hard on up until the end, up until they have a confirmed place. Then is the unsuccessful offer. So that means that the university was unable to offer that student a place on the course. Sometimes that could be down to the quality of the application. Sometimes it may be due to the grades that the student is predicted and not meeting the entry requirements of the university. And sometimes it can be because the student has not read the subject requirements of the university that they wish to study with. So for example, and this is a genuine example that happened to me recently, a student wanted to study engineering with us, but is currently studying CTEC qualifications. Now at Loughborough University, if you are studying CTEC or a BTEC, to do engineering, you have to also do an A-level in maths additional to that. Now, unfortunately, that student didn't check that he needed to do maths. He was doing computer science A-level. So unfortunately, even though his personal statement was really strong and he was a really great candidate, we would have been unable to make him an offer because he wasn't meeting the subject requirements. Okay, so it's so important that the student reads the university website and the subject as well as the grade requirements that we're asking for. Okay, don't expect the teachers to do it for you. It's not their responsibility, it's the student's responsibility. And if you can avoid these sort of errors, it means that the student's not wasting, you know, their spaces on the UCAS application. So it's really important that they do that. Like I said, and then the last one is a course choice withdrawal. So a course choice has been withdrawn either by the student or the university or college. So it could be for any sort of reason that they decide they're going to withdraw from that. So these are the 4 options, okay? Now, once they get their 4 options, they can respond with the top 2. So like I mentioned at the beginning, they can have their firm acceptance. So that is the student's first choice. So that's the one, the dream one that they want to go to. In my case, that was Loughborough University back in over 10 years ago. And the second one is the insurance acceptance. So that is the student's second choice. So in terms of choosing their firm and insurance, it's not wrong to be slightly ambitious in terms of the firm acceptance. Okay, so if a student's predicted ABB, it's not necessarily wrong for the student to apply for a university course that is asking for maybe AAB, so 1 grade higher than what they predicted. It's not wrong. However, what's really important is that the insurance choice is either the same or slightly lower than what they're predicted. So if their grades go better than they expected, fantastic, they're into their firm acceptance choice. Or if things don't go to plan, they've got the insurance choice that they can fall back on. So when the student's deciding on the firm and insurance, they need to really be comfortable with the university choices that they're thinking about. Okay, and some students will put, for example, 2 different courses as the firm and as the insurance, but both courses have the same entry requirements. So let's say it is ABB. If that student gets, let's say, BBB or BBC, they will automatically get taken out of both their firm and insurance choices, which means that they will have to go into clearing. So it's really important that the student understands the difference between the firm and insurance courses. If, for example, if a student used up all of their 5 choices and they haven't received any offers, there is something called UCAS Extra. So you can go on the UCAS website and read about UCAS Extra, about what the process is and how that sort of looks. Okay, so we're now getting on to results day. So A-level results day is on the 17th of August, 2023. So it normally happens in August. So a few sort of hints and tips from me. Encourage the student to do as much as they can in preparation. So obviously we are thinking a long time ahead, so August. However, students get overly confident and they don't prepare for clearing in the best way possible, okay? So they need to sort of have a plan B just in case, in my opinion anyway. Encourage the student to keep checking UCAS track and make sure that they have the key information that they need. So we're talking about that UCAS ID. We're talking about university clearing numbers, okay? So clearing is when, you know, they don't get into their firm or insurance choices. They can also choose a university that, you know, is in clearing to see what courses are available, even if they got into their firm. But every university will have a specific number that to call, and that's how the student will need to apply for clearing using the UCAS ID that they have, and also the subject codes and information about the results that they got. It's important that they understand what clearing is. You know, it's not mum and dad's job or carers or guardians to you know, find out what clearing is. It's the student's responsibility to understand how clearing works, and you are there to support them through that. It's important that the student also researches other universities if they don't meet, you know, the required grades or exceed expectations, and would like to explore other options. Maybe if they do much better than they expected, and you know, there was a university that they didn't even consider because they didn't think they would get the grades. There's nothing wrong with them trying to get to that university through clearing if they got AAA star. Okay. Be supportive to them. You know, results day, it's very different for everyone. It can be very stressful for the student. I remember my results day, I checked UCAS before I went to school, before I went to Cannons to check my results, and I'm really glad I did, because I found out that I got accepted into my #1 university, and then went to school and looked at my grades. So I felt like the worst was over. I didn't really, you know, worry as much about my grades, because I knew I was roughly within remit to get into the university that I wanted to go to. My additional thing as well was that I did an additional A-level. So I am originally from Poland, and I actually had an additional A-level in my native language. So whilst it wasn't easy in terms of content, it helped me get a really good mark that helped me to get into university as well. So if anyone's thinking about it, I would definitely encourage it. Be open-minded, you know, stay positive for the student. You know, I know that when it comes to results day, and it can be with, you know, exam results day and stuff like that, it's not the end of the world. You know, pick yourself up as a student, you know, pick yourself up, think about plan B. There are always other options as well. A lot of students who get into Loughborough through clearing, you know, they admit that it's the best thing that's happened to them. And I'm sure that no matter what happens, whatever university the student will go to, they will have a really fantastic time. And, you know, as long as they do that research as well, it will help them feel confident in what they want to do. So you can put 17th of August in your calendars if your son or daughter studying A-levels. So now that they got their place at university, we are at the last part of our sort of journey to university. So that is September. So they are starting university. So once the student has the place confirmed, the university will then be in contact with them regarding things like accommodation. Okay, I always encourage students to have a look at accommodation before they sort of you know, maybe confirm their top 2 universities, because they can have a look at what sort of accommodation options there are, but they can also have a look at the cost, and they can have a look at what they like, what they don't like. Okay, and sometimes students are stuck between 2 universities, and the one thing that can help them, you know, decide where they want to go is accommodation. So definitely worthwhile. The university will give them starting dates. Obviously, your children, they will not have to experience COVID Freshers Week or COVID moving in, which is great. It was quite tricky for us, but we did it. just so you know that, for example, for Loughborough University, we have three days in that first week where students move in, to ensure that, you know, we scatter them accordingly and there's not like traffic everywhere. The university will also be in touch regarding things like, you know, what to start getting ready. So on our website, there is, you know, a freshers checklist. So a fresher is a fresh university student, and all the way from 6 weeks to 1 day to go, there's a list of the things that we encourage students to think about. Now, embarrassingly, when I was going to Loughborough to study my undergraduate course, my mum wanted to be really prepared, and she got an IKEA bag. Everyone knows how big IKEA bags are, and filled it with she hates me for telling this story. She filled it with like rice and pot noodle and pasta and basically things that don't go off, as if, like, you know, Loughborough didn't have a single shop in a 100-mile radius. So she really did equip me in food. You don't need to do that. It was quite embarrassing moving in with an IKEA bag full of non-perishable foods, but that is a funny story, that she just wanted to make sure that I definitely always had food. So that's what the freshers checklist looks like. It will also have information on things like, you know, medical side. You know, when the student starts with us, we do encourage them to register with a GP, and we have a dentist on campus, and we have an optician on campus as well. So, you know, basically what we try and do, especially for students who are coming from, you know, London and other places, to create a home away from home. So they will need to have, you know, their sort of personal documents and maybe, you know, GP letters and stuff, if, you know, if they have a medical condition. So all that sort of checklist does help them with navigating what they need to be thinking about. Just so you know as well, the student, if there is a student who has sort of accessibility requirements or a disability, it's really worthwhile telling the universities as soon as possible, just so that we can make the right sort of adjustments for that student when they come and study with us as well, to make sure that they're comfortable and settled well. So just to summarize, and you will have a little bit of your evening back. So in year 12, we really encourage the students to do their research and narrow down their interests. It will really help them with sort of making that decision and finding out what's out there. And it's really useful to go to open days, to taster days, to conventions like What Uni, UCAS, UK Uni Search. So there's these conventions where hundreds of universities will get together, and the student can go and speak to quite a few. If a student can, maybe getting a little bit of paid or voluntary experience will help them develop some skills that will make them a little bit of a stronger sort of candidate for university. Although when they apply, the main thing, the absolute main thing that we care about is why are they wanting to study that particular course? So that sort of relates to that personal statement that they will write, that the school will guide them through as well. The student will confirm the sort of existing qualifications, predicted grades, because those are important to apply to university, and they will start to develop that personal statement. So those of you that may not be aware, a personal statement is a sort of a letter, a document that each student applying to universities has to write to talk about why they want to study a particular course, you know, what are their career aspirations, and it's just like almost like a mini, you know, application on why they are the best candidates to study. And in that letter, we want to know about their course interest, but also we do want to know about, you know, experience outside of school, so volunteering, sports, any awards and things like that as well. But if anyone has any questions about personal statements, I'm more than happy to help you. So that's sort of in a nutshell everything that is involved with the UCAS cycle. So from year 12 all the way to getting into uni, moving in. If anyone does have any questions, my email is below. But if not, then you can also ask your questions in this chat box. Let me have a look. Let me open the chat box. You're also more than welcome to unmute yourself if you want to, and I don't know if you can, but the chat box is a safe bet as well. So thank you all very much for listening. I hope you're all awake. Like I said, I will give you a little bit of your time back this evening. So yeah, and if anyone has any questions that are specific to, you know, what it was like for me to go from Cannons to Loughborough, please don't be shy, and you can ask away.
Thank you. Just while, if anyone does need to want to ask any questions in the chat box, I just in the meantime wanted to thank you very much, Anna, for that presentation. Really informative. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. I hope it proved useful, and if you do have any questions and you think of them later on, you can always just drop me an email. If I can't answer them, I can always ask Anna, and I will share the slides. So if there's nothing coming up in the chat, I think we can probably let everyone go. Thank you. And thanks again, Anna.
No, my pleasure. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening, and hopefully see you soon.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.